running this type of narrative here, running this type of narrative here. So when we see which one of the deltas we are positioned in, which one of the auctions we're positioned in, it's quite clear that the auction we're positioned in for the oil was this auction here. So we know straight away that we need to be demanding those lower prices, just like we did on the gold trade as well. We know that on the gold trade, we had this similar situation whereby we saw the delta coming in and we had to just be mindful of the fact that delta was too hot in here. And because of that, we needed, when delta's doing that, the price needs to be doing that. And that's exactly what we got into the bottom edge of gold, managed that easy trade. Well, the oil's just done exactly the same. You know, remember, this is when we have value that's working for us. If the delta's not, we need to wait for that lower price point. So when the delta's doing that, the price should be doing that as a storyline. And that's exactly, pretty much exactly what we've got. And that's where we get the simple reads that we need to get in terms of delta stories, don't we? If we don't get those simple reads, we're not going to get any read. Now, obviously, the bond is now looking a little bit exposed. We've been back to the 27 again. That was a good sell trade coming away from the bottom edge. Probably a little bit more than I'd expected from the short, I must admit, but nonetheless, a nice trade looking now at the top edge bonds. Top edge bonds against the dollar gold narrative. Now, obviously, you could be trading the dollar bond spread trade. That would be a thing. If you like it, that could be a thing for you there. Gold bonds, yeah, well, the gold was an earlier buy trade, so obviously that's going to be something that's already on your screens anyway. So perhaps part of a spread trade opportunity there. With regard to indicators, by the way, I've just noticed somebody was mentioning, Reeve and Greg were mentioning Max. I've got a really easy solution if you don't like it. Guess what? Don't fucking use it. If you use something you don't like, then you're just an absolute plankton brain. You're borderline moronic. I mean, it's as simple as that. You're borderline bloody moronic. If you don't like it, don't use it. Simple. End of story. That's the end of the discussion. You know, if you can't find a use for it, it's like moving averages. There's a lot of real professional traders that would die, you know, they would die if they had to use a moving average. But if you want to use moving averages, it can still give some real active filters for trade ideas. If I'm above the moving average, then I'm going to buy dips. I'm going to be buying opportunities. If I'm below the moving average, I'm going to sell rallies. So moving averages have a value if you decide that it fits into the narrative that you're trying to build. If you decide Max doesn't fit in, guess what? Don't bloody use it. It's as simple as that. It doesn't really matter whether you like it or whether you don't like it. It's not the point. The point is that if it fits into the story you're trying to build, then don't, you know, then either use it or don't use it. It's just that simple, guys. If you don't like it, and then you try and force, you know, using it, then really borderline plankton. You really are a one-celled organism, and you're borderline brain dead at that stage. It's like order flow. A lot of people can't get to grips with order flow. Well, absolutely, Simon. It's a lot of people can't get to grips with order flow, the book Delta, and all that kind of stuff. Is it a fact of trading? Sure. Still doesn't mean a lot of people like it or use it. It's one of those tools that if you like it and you use it, then you can see a lot of good stuff from it. It can get you upside down and back to front at times, absolutely. But the key to it is, does it fit into the answers that you're... Remember, we have always asked this question of people trying to use indicators in the first place. If you're going to use an indicator, does it answer a very specific question that you've got? If it doesn't, well, you probably don't need to use it. I mean, it's just an extra add-on that takes up real estate. If it answers a specific question you've got, then by all means, use it. The one thing about it is it gives you some information that gives me a trade opportunity. For example, gold. Gold was on a sweep. We couldn't see that anywhere else except for perhaps getting that max narrative cleared away was the sweep narrative that did ultimately develop. So when we got the sweep narrative on max, we were able to then make a trade decision based on the sweep. Well, that's good news. Surely to goodness, that's got to be good news. So when we see the sweep, we then know that we are looking for that low edge price. We're looking for that low edge storyline. And if we can get the low edge storyline, we might be able to get the buy trade on. So when we see the max at the bottom edge here, look at how strong the max was here, driving the price through that pin zone. And because max is driving the price through the pin zone, one of the things we're looking for is the sweep. Well, there's the sweep right there. So when we get the sweep, you can see the sweep clearly when we get that red line dropping like an absolute rocket ship here. So when you see the sweep, I've got a great chance to start buying into gold at that stage. And that was my first trade in gold. We called it out live in the room. We called a 95 long trade that made a high swing ultimately of 24 handle. And then, of course, the buyers came in and we were able to get away from that trade again, let the sweep come in again. And this time there's a massive divergence in max. And with that massive divergence in max, we've got a no-brainer buy trade coming in there. So if you didn't get the no-brainer buy trade in gold there, perhaps you maybe should use max, because max showed you that this was a no-brainer buy trade on gold with that massive arrival of volumes. So perhaps it then has a value for you if you didn't get that buy trade in gold. It is a bottom edge at the end of the day. It's a tough call. It's going to be a tough gig anywhere, but it's still the right trade. And you can see that because it's the right trade, you can also see that during this phase here, any sell trade was the right trade. Any sell trade was the right trade pretty much right through that entire phase. And there was a little grab of liquidity here to get you into the right trade. If you wanted to do the right trade, there was a great opportunity to do the right trade there. And again, that was worth, well, 06s got a low price of 96s, so that trade was worth $1,000. So if you can spot that anywhere else, by all means, use whatever else you can spot it in. You know, nobody's insisting you use any of this stuff. You know what I mean? If you don't like it, you don't fucking like it. Just don't use it. If you find a use for it, that's good news. But the one thing it doesn't do is it does not lag. You can see it doesn't lag. It finds the high price and it finds the low. And sometimes when it calls the high and it calls the low, you're able to get into that trade as early as possible. You know, and obviously sometimes it's just fair. That's all it is. Sometimes it is just fair. This top edge here was just fair. But you can see the divergence narrative starting to form in the background, the market makers causing that last. And, you know, this is the kind of environment here we talked about before, where we get that market maker causing the last sweep higher here, you know, causing that sweep to take place and then getting the short sell into the pin zone and then causing the sweep lower here to get into the buy trade for the reversal. But as I said, it's, you know, it's neither here nor there. I couldn't give a flying Castlemaine whether you like it or not. It means no difference to me. And at the end of the day, as I said, if you look at any indicator and you don't like it, just don't use it. I thought it's quite a simple, straightforward answer to that question.